Hello, we're on to crime and deviance lesson number 2 today, and we're going to start with a quick 6. So 6 questions there. I'll just read them out to you and then you need to press pause. So number 1, what is meant by a boomerang child? Number 2, what are 2 strengths of a questionnaire? Number 3, what are 2 reasons why working class children underachieve in education? Number 4, what is the Divorce Reform Act in 1969? Number 5, what is the Hawthorne effect? And number 6, what is the difference between the formal and the hidden curriculum? So press pause, have a go at those. Right, so let's go through it then. Number 1, a boomerang child. So boomerang child, much like a boomerang, it goes, then it comes back. So in other words, it's an adult child returning to the family home, maybe because they've been to university and they've come back home, or it could be as a result of a breakdown of a marriage or a relationship and they need to come back home and live with their parents or similar reasons. What are 2 strengths of a questionnaire? So questionnaires are quick, they're cheap, they're generally quite reliable because you can get lots of results relatively easy from them. People can remain anonymous, so they might be more likely to be honest. Number 3, what are 2 reasons why working class children underachieve in education? So we're talking material factors, so you can mention anything related to money and finances and resources. We're talking also cultural factors, so anything related to the culture of the school not matching the culture at home, going on trips to museums, having reading books and so on and so forth. Or you can mention social capital, this idea that working class children, parents, don't actually mix in the circles with middle class families who perhaps know more about how the education system works and have friends who know more about how the education system works and how best to support their children. So anything to do with cultural factors, material factors, or indeed social capital. The other one you can talk about is school itself. Working class children underachieve for the reasons where school is more suited for the middle classes. So that's things like school teachers being more middle class, the curriculum being suited more to middle class people, etc., etc. What is the Divorce Reform Act in 1969? So the Divorce Reform Act in 1969 introduced the fact that you could get divorced for irretrievable breakdown of marriage. In other words, nobody had to be guilty of anything. You didn't have to be guilty of adultery or guilty of abusive behaviour. All it had to mean was that if you were unhappy, you could get divorced. So the Divorce Reform Act led to more divorces because people simply unhappy could divorce. Next question, the Hawthorne effect. So that is where you change your behaviour as a result of being observed. So it affects the validity of observations. And finally, the difference between the formal and the hidden curriculum. So the formal curriculum is your lessons, your English, your maths, geography, history, etc. And your hidden curriculum is the other things you learn at school that aren't your formal lessons. So Marxists will blame the hidden curriculum for helping you become the new lot of proletariat obedient workers, for example. So, title for today, how is crime and deviance a social construct? So we're talking about social construct. It's a word we've had before, but we need to think about what is meant by this term social construct. And then we need to consider whether crime and more so deviance is result of social construct. So write that title in your books and today's date, obviously. And so where I want you to start, think about my sociology lessons, and what I want you to think about is or your teacher's sociology lesson if you're listening to this and Mr. Lapham or Miss Lucas teach you. What are the rules of your class? Just jot them down. What are the rules that we have in class? What do I expect from my class? What do Miss Lucas or Miss Lapham expect from their class? And then I want you to think about what are the expectations in one of your other classes? And what are the differences? Are there any differences between what we expect or specifically your teacher expects? So if I'm your teacher, are there any differences between what I expect and, for example, your English teacher or your PE teacher or your science teacher? So just have a think about what are the major differences between what we all think. And then have a think about how that could relate to society. So how could this idea of there being differences in the different classrooms relate to how society works? Think about some of your thoughts about socialisation and the agents of socialisation, for example. So, new little side heading. Who decides what is deviant behaviour? Remember that crime and deviance are 2 different things. But what do we mean by deviant behaviour? So we know a crime is considered a crime because the law says it is. So we know we've got a law of the land, in this case in the UK, and we consider it a crime if the law says so. But it's much more difficult to decide what is deviant because not everybody agrees on what is considered deviant behaviour. So it doesn't really depend what the act is itself, but it's how other people react to that act, and also the time and the place that that act is taking place. So deviance, therefore, is a social construct. Remember that construct, that word comes from construction, the idea of building something, and social is society. So it's society built. In other words, as it says in brackets there, it has been made and shaped by the people in that society. They decide what is deviant. And therefore, not all societies view the same things as deviant now, but also even within our society, what is deviant now may have not been deviant 30 or 100 years ago, and similarly stuff that was deviant 30 or 100 years ago isn't now. Okay, so what we need to think about is lots of things view deviance and crime in different ways. Lots of societies look at them differently. You've got some examples there. Look, selling drugs. So selling drugs, immediately we say selling drugs, you think, oh, that's really bad. But actually, yes, if it's sold by a drug dealer on the street corner, absolutely that's deviant behaviour. In fact, it's criminal behaviour. But if a pharmacist is in a shop selling drugs, that's not deviant behaviour. Similarly, if we look at things like same-sex relationships, same-sex marriage in our society, absolutely fine. No problem, not deviant, not criminal. But go back 100 years, both deviant and criminal in the UK, and in some other countries still considered deviant now, and in some places even still seen as a crime. So this word here, social construct, really important. It needs to go into your glossary, so turn to the back of your books and put this into your glossary, please. And it's very simply an idea that has been created and shaped by a certain society, and it's really important you remember all societies are different. So what I would like you to do is take a page to draw a table like this into your book. So we've got a 5-box table, criminal behaviour everywhere, so things that are crimes everywhere, things that are crimes in the UK but not in other countries, things that are okay in the UK but are crimes in some other countries, what are crimes in the UK now but they weren't in the past, and then the other way round, which things are not a crime now but they used to be. And you'll see attached to wherever you picked up this lesson, so in the Google Classroom, you will see a worksheet attached to this lesson that you will use. It's got images and so on it, and you will use it to decide which things are crimes in different places and which are not. So you've got things like jaywalking on there, same-sex marriage, and so on. So use that worksheet to fill in your table with what thing goes in each of those boxes. And then have a think. Thinking about this sentence here, this thing, crime is viewed the same way across the world. Do you agree? What I want you to do is use that table to think about the answer to that question. Is it true that things that are crimes is the same across the world? Give some examples of where it's not the same. Back up your answer, which I'm sure will be no, with examples to say where things are not the same. If you can use the term social construct, that would be really, really good as well. So press pause, have a little bit of time to write that down. I would say you need to take about 15 minutes to do that if I were you. And then next lesson we're going to have a little test on glossary terms from the last unit mainly. So what I want you to do, you'll see some words up here. What I want you to do is revise for a quick quiz as to these 10 key words from your glossary. So we've got culture, sanctions, norms, nuclear family, reconstituted family, secularisation, triple shift, valid, reliable, ethical, sample. So all of those are from your year 9 work. Formal curriculum, hidden curriculum, material factors, correspondence theory, subculture, cultural diversity, meritocracy, self-fulfilling prophecy, glass ceiling, achieved status and ascribed status. They are words that we have covered this year. So independent learning, revise those words, ready for a test next time. I will see you then. Bye.